So this is a question about typhoid fever. Now KUHS has asked till this date about 7 times and most of the time as clinical essay. So it is very important. So we'll be dealing the typhoid under the topic agents, carriers, pathogenesis, and then the clinical manifestation, the complications, lab diagnosis, which is very big part, the most important one, and then the treatment, and finally the prevention. First, the agents. The agents are Salmonella typhi as well as Salmonella paratyphi, which is again subdivided as A, B, C, etc. Now the carriers. Usually they are fecal carriers. There are also urinary carriers. And you must have heard about Typhoid Mary, who was a famous carrier. Now coming to the pathogenesis. First, we should know about the route dose and risk factors. The route is mainly oral route, and the infective dose is 10 raised to 3 to 10 raised to 6. And now about the risk factors. It can be due to the decreased stomach acidity, as in case of antacid usage or achlorhydria. It can also be caused by loss of intestinal integrity. An example is inflammatory bowel disease and use of antibiotics. So once again, the route, the infective dose, and the risk factors. Now coming to the pathogenesis. So the ingested pathogen is actually entering our body through certain cells known as M cells, and this is by a process known as bacteria mediated endocytosis. Here the agent is actually altering the cytoskeleton of these cells, and by which it helps in the formation of membrane ruffles. Now through this the agent get taken up by vesicles. So once again the ingested pathogen enters the M cells as vesicles. Now these vesicles start crossing the epithelium and it reaches the submucosa, where these hosts, that is these bacteria, are engulfed by macrophages. Now these macrophages spread this bacteria throughout the lymphatics, and from the lymphatics it enters the blood, and this is known as primary bacteremia. And note that from the lymphatics the bacteria is spreading into the reticuloendothelial system, whereas from blood it is spreading to the various organs, and thus it multiplies. This is known as secondary bacteremia, and this is where we can say clinically the disease has occurred. So, summing up, the ingested pathogen enters the M cell by bacteria mediated endocytosis, where it forms vesicles, and the vesicles engulfed by macrophages, where it spread to lymphatics and from there into the blood, and finally, clinical disease occur. Now about the clinical manifestation. First of all, the incubation period is almost around 2 weeks, and there will be step ladder pattern of fever. That is step ladder pattern of fever. It is a continuous fever. There will be also raw spots on the trunk and also the chest. Now, along with this, there will be common symptoms like headache, chills, cough, sweating, and it's a systemic disease. There will be arthralgia, myalgia, and also GI symptoms like abdominal pain, vomiting, nausea. Coming to signs, there can be hepatosplenomegaly. As I said before, it is affecting the reticuloendothelial system, and also there can be epistaxis or relative bradycardia. Now about the complication: GI bleed, perforations, meningitis, cerebellar ataxia, and so on. Now the lab diagnosis. is the most commonly asked question in microbiology. So let us divide it as, first of all, the specimens, and then the cultures used, and then the features shown on gram staining, about the biochemical tests, and then the slide agglutination test, the antimicrobial susceptibility test, and then the most important, the Vidal test, which is repeatedly asked, and also some other tests. So once again, specimen, culture, gram staining, biochemical, slide agglutination, antimicrobial, Vidal, and others. First, about the specimen. There are three main specimens. They are the blood, stool, and urine. Now, the blood is taken in the first week, whereas the sensitivity of stool and urine goes increasing in the next week. So, that is very important. The blood is taken in the first week. Now, about the culture. Now, we have to talk about both the blood culture as well as about the stool culture. The blood sample that was taken is first of all centrifuged so that it can be separated as serum and clot, and the serum is taken for the Vidal test, whereas the clot is taken for the clot culture. Now this clot culture is done in blood agar and McConkie agar, also some newer method like BACTEC. Now in blood agar we can see non-hemolytic moist colonies. What is non-hemolytic moist colonies? And in McConkie agar we can see round translucent pale colonies, that is about 1 to 3 millimeter. Now the stool culture media can be divided as low selective media, enrichment media, as well as high selective media. The low selective media, it includes the McConkie agar. Now about the enrichment media, which is very important, it includes selenite F broth as well as tetrathionate broth. Once again, selenite F broth and tetrathionate broth. Now coming to high selective media, it includes deoxycholate citrate agar, psilocybin deoxycholate agar, Salmonella shigella agar, and also Wilson Blair media. Now one thing you can remember is that most of these colonies will have black center. So once again, low selective enrichment and high selective media. Now coming to gram staining. So Salmonella is a gram negative, non-sporing, non-capsulated, and it is motile with peritrichous flagella. That is gram negative, non-sporing, non-capsulated, and motile with peritrichous flagella. Now to simplify biochemical tests, there is ICU, indole, citrate and urease, which are negative, positive and negative respectively. And there is this triple sugar iron agar test. Here gas production is seen except for Salmonella typhi. Now about the slide agglutination test, which uses polyvalent O antibodies. And as in most cases, we find out the antimicrobial susceptibility using Muller-Hinton agar. Coming to the frequently asked question, that is the Vidal test. So what are we doing in this test? We are actually demonstrating antibodies against this organism in our serum using antigens. So we must know about the antigens that are being used. So what are they? First of all, we have the O antigen of typhi represented as TO, and then H of typhi as TH, then the H of paratyphi represented as AH, and H of paratyphi B as BH. In case you're wondering why we are not using the O antigen of paratyphi, it's because the O of typhi cross react with that of paratyphi. Now coming to the procedure, The serum that we mentioned before is serially diluted from 1 by 10 to that of 1 by 640. Now a 4 set of this is taken for each antigen, that is TO, TH, AH and BH. We may also keep a control to look for autoagglutination. We can say the test will be positive if O show chalky clumps and H as fluffy cottony precipitates. And if there is no antibody present, it is seen as a button at the bottom. Now we should mention about the false positive and false negative circumstances. Under false positive, conditions like anamnestic reaction, and then the prior immunization is seen as false positive, and also if the antigen suspension we are using to test contain fibers, and all this causes false positive reaction. Now coming to false negative, that is even if there is disease, it is seen as negative. It include early and late stages in carriers, and if we have taken antibiotics, and also in prozone phenomena. Thus, to avoid false result, we should take two tests that are 1 week apart, and only if there is 4 times rise in the titer, it is seen as a significant titer. And note that for H it is greater than 200 and O is greater than 100, which is repeatedly asked in the viva. Once again, Vidal test for detecting antibodies in the serum using 4 types of antigen. We should take about false positive, negative and significant titer. The other types of tests we use include ELISA and the molecular method, that is PCR. And there might be also neutropenia, and we can also test the liver function test. Thus the lab diagnosis includes specimen. We should talk about culture, about blood and stool culture, and it is gram negative. ICU is negative, positive, negative, and finally the Vidal test and ELISA and PCR. Now coming to treatment. Now we can say that we use ciprofloxacin and azithromycin, but the resistance has gone high, and now we are mostly using ceftriaxone, a third generation antibiotic. The last part is about the prevention. So first we should write about all the basic hygienic measures, about all the hand hygiene and keeping our food and water sources safe. Now the question is usually directed to the vaccine. What are the types of vaccine? First of all, we have the parenteral vaccine, that it is parenteral VI polysaccharide vaccine. It is given at a dose of 25 microgram either as intramuscular or subcutaneous route. Now the preferred vaccine we use now are the oral live attenuated type of vaccine, which is commonly called as Tyforal. It is derived from a TY21A strain. It lacks an enzyme known as UDP galactose 4 epimerase. UDP galactose 4 epimerase. And this is given as an enteric coated capsule given to individuals who are above 6 years of age, and it is given orally at alternate days, that is first, third, fifth and seventh day. Now that summarizes typhoid. We mentioned that it is caused by Salmonella typhi and paratyphi. The carriers is usually fecal carriers. Through oral route, bacteria mediated endocytosis, and we talked about step ladder pattern of fever and rose spots, the complications, and about the lab diagnosis, where the most important is a Vidal test, which is an antibody test, about the significant titer, that the treatment was ciprofloxacin, and the vaccine, that is the Tyforal. Now if you guys want this note, I have put the link in the description, and do comment below if any part of this video needs any improvement. And once again, thank you.